Versatile Mage. Chapter 485. Fiery Sorceress. He was swept away by the lava. Forget about him for now. Ling said cold-bloodedly. Xinxia bit her red lips, as tears almost burst from her eyes, yet she knew that Ling was making the right call. Zhao Mannion clenched his teeth and quickly cast the light protection rampart without hesitation, forming an arc-shaped barrier sealing off the entrance. Chen Yi went up to lend a hand, too. She quickly cast the rock barrier to add another layer of defense, bracing the barrier further so the lava would not burst into the cave. It took Zhang Xiaohou quite some time to collect his thoughts, wiping his face even though he was not in tears, and casting another layer of rock barrier. The group quickly headed inside the cave. The magicians who were left in a miserable state by their burns dropped to the ground in low spirits. No one talked. The atmosphere felt incredibly heavy. Finally, Zhang Xiaohou slowly raised his head and glanced at Xinxia. Xinxia knew what Zhang Xiaohou wanted to ask. She pointed at the Swift Star Wolf and said, "He's not dead yet. The Swift Star Wolf is still here, so that means he's still alive." The group rose to their feet upon hearing this. That's right, the Swift Star Wolf was Mo Fan's summoned beast. If Mo Fan was dead, the Swift Star Wolf would be sent back to his dimension. The fact that the Swift Star Wolf was still here meant that Mo Fan was still alive. Mo Fan's primary element is fire. The lava won't kill him in a short period of time. However, if we don't seal the entrance, everyone here would be dead, and what he did would be totally meaningless, said Ling, who always managed to remain calm in an incomprehensible way. We need to survive this before we can go search for him. Let's hope the lava won't last for long. Otherwise, we'll simply suffocate to death here, said Chen Yi. The pain was unbearable. It felt like his whole body was burning. He kept slamming into sturdy rocks as he was swept away by the lava tide. Mo Fan could feel some of his bones breaking during each collision. The heat of the lava was not enough to burn his body into ashes because of his fire resistance, but the burning sensation, as if he had fallen into a pot of boiling water, felt like his flesh was getting well cooked. Mo Fan thought he would soak in the lava until he ran out of air when the tide swept him towards the two-faced creature. However, he could still feel the tide continue flowing in the midst of his dizziness, as if the creature had left. Mo Fan had no idea where he was being swept to. He lost consciousness and was unable to tell how long he had fainted. The continuous collisions had made him feel dizzier, and he fell totally unconscious after a strong hit. The sun was high up in the sky, right in the middle of the brazier-shaped north burning valley with the shape of a brazier. The only fire pillar mountain in the north burning valley happened to be the closest to the sun. Not many living things could be seen on its peak, yet the plants that required an irrigation of fire had blossomed vigorously and almost covered the whole surface on top of the mountain. The plants were blazing red, like an ocean of autumn leaves, densely covering the place. As the red leaves fell to the ground, they were like candlelights dropping slowly in the air. If a strong gust happened to blow across the place, the candlelights would drift in the wind, a spectacular sight. A naked man was lying unconscious among the pile of red leaves. Many parts of his skin had festered from the burns, and his face was seriously scorched. Beside the man, a fiery red, slightly elegant figure quietly observed him. Her hand held a liquid produced from chewing the red leaves, which she fed the unconscious man by pouring it into his mouth. The liquid seemed to be a great cure for the burns. As the liquid entered the man's throat, his festering wounds began to recover rapidly. The energy from the lava was fairly pure, as it did not contain the poison or destructive power of some of the special flames. On the other hand, the unconscious man had a fairly strong fire resistance. The heat was not the reason he had fainted, but the lack of oxygen. The sun slanted and slowly descended into the horizon. The man finally regained consciousness during the evening. Mo Fan opened his eyes and scanned his surroundings. He initially thought he had landed in the middle of a fire, but he was relieved when he discovered that it was only red leaves drifting in the wind. The leaves were soft, and as they had absorbed and stored energy from the sunlight, they were like a warm rug in this evening, which had gradually turned cold. Why am I here? Mo Fan was confused. He clearly remembered drifting with the lava currents to the bottom of the hill. As he looked around, he saw the sky. He was on the ground covered in red leaves, and occasionally, a cold wind similar to that at a high altitude would sweep past. I'm on the hill, murmured Mo Fan. He inspected himself and discovered that there were no visible wounds on his skin, which was totally unbelievable. As Mo Fan was totally confused, a bright red human-figured creature slowly approached him. Its movement was strange, as the tips of its toes were slightly raised, and it hovered above the ground. It floated toward Mo Fan from a stand of fiery trees around 10 meters high. It arrived beside Mo Fan, and even though its body was made of fire, to Mo Fan's surprise, he could not sense any heat coming from the creature. Mo Fan watched it alertly. He tried to protect himself, yet it felt like all his bones had shattered. Just a slight movement caused great pain across his entire body. He could not even rise to his feet, let alone cast a spell. The fiery figure did not attack Mo Fan but handed a delicious-looking fruit to him. It did not get any closer, as if it were worried that he would be afraid of it. For me? Asked Mo Fan in disbelief, glancing at the fruit which could both satisfy his hunger and treat his injury. The fiery figure nodded. Are you the one that saved me and brought me here? Asked Mo Fan. The figure nodded, as if it could totally understand his words. Mo Fan immediately recalled that Chen Yi had mentioned how her mother was saved by a humanoid fiery creature the day she was swept away by the fire calamity. Chapter end. Please guys, like, comment, share, and subscribe.